You ever trusted a best pistol list? I have. More times than I care to admit. Everybody's got an opinion, some YouTuber or magazine promising the answer. I bought the legends, ran the same 10 names everyone swears by, kept waiting for that aha moment. Most days I walked away let down. Money wasted, confidence shaken, sometimes wondering if I was the problem, not the gun. Doesn't matter how much homework you do. Sometimes the gun that's supposed to be perfect just lets you down at the worst possible time. Nobody talks about that part. Nobody admits it. This list isn't about showing off. It's about what happens when all the hype fades and you're left with the truth. I'm not here to drag brands or stir drama, but if you think you know why these lists fail, I promise you don't. Stay till the end. You'll see what nobody else is willing to say. You hear it everywhere. Every list, every counter, every instructor swears the Glock 19 Gen 5 is the one gun you'll never regret. I bought the line, worked side jobs, sold a couple of old pieces, finally put my money down thinking, this is what all those guys on the forums and at the range mean when they talk about the gold standard. I wanted that feeling. Confidence, reliability, maybe even a little pride. Instead, what I got was nothing. No spark, no moment where it felt like the clouds parted and I finally arrived. At the range, the Glock 19 Gen 5 just blended in. Everyone had one. All of us shooting, swapping mags, running drills, but nobody was actually excited. The gun shot straight, handled well, and never choked. But it never gave me a reason to remember it. Sometimes I'd go home and wonder why I felt so flat. Like I'd missed something that was promised but never delivered. That's the catch. Nobody's putting in their best lists. Sometimes the one everyone says is safe is just boring. The gold standard turns out to be beige. And the real letdown is realizing you're chasing comfort, not greatness. If even the Glock 19 Gen 5 couldn't live up to its legend, what hope do the others have? There's a guy I've looked up to for years. Tough as nails, the kind of shooter who never talks himself up. When he finally picked up a Springfield Hellcat Pro, it felt like the perfect ending. He'd watched the hype, heard every expert swear by it, and saved up like he was finally buying a ticket to the club. First week, I saw him run it at the range, smiling in a quiet way you only notice if you've known someone long enough. But after a while, something changed. The Hellcat Pro started collecting dust. Every time we met up, his old, battered carry piece was back in the holster. One day, I finally asked why the new gun stayed home. He paused, then told me straight, "It made me feel like a fraud. I wanted to love it, but every time I held it, it just didn't feel like mine. Too clean, too perfect. Like I skipped the struggle that got me here. My old gun's got scars that tell my story. This one felt empty." Best pistol lists never warn you about that kind of regret. And just when I thought I'd heard every reason for giving up on a top pick, the next story blindsided me. Turns out, disappointment sometimes hits where you least expect it. The HKVP9 has a reputation that borders on legend. Every best pistol list puts it near the top. Engineered perfection, expert's choice, never a doubt about reliability. At the range, you hear guys drop its name with a kind of reverence, like it's the final word in serious shooting. But there's something you notice if you hang around long enough. One Saturday, I caught a few regulars leaning over their benches grinning, "VP9, best safe queen you'll ever own." Everybody laughed, but you could tell it wasn't just a joke. When the drills started, the VP9s all got zipped away, swapped out for smaller, lighter pistols. Nobody talked trash. Nobody needed to. Every time, it's the same quiet ritual, a little show and tell, some half-hearted praise, then back in the bag it goes. Some say it's the grip, others the bulk. But nobody ever admits they stopped carrying it. It just happens. No one makes a scene. There's no big debate. The VP9 sits out the rest of the session. Silent proof that what shines on a list sometimes never makes it out of the safe. And by the time the targets come down, everyone's already moved on. Last year, after polishing off a plate at Texas Country BBQ, I wandered into the nearby gun shop, intent on picking up a Ruger Security 9 for my wife. All the lists called it the smart move. Budget friendly, simple, does everything you need. It seemed like a sure bet. But standing at the counter, the staff didn't push the usual pitch. One of them leaned in, low voice. "You're not the first hoping to save a buck. Most folks circle back when they feel that trigger." I shrugged it off. Value's value, right? Cash changed hands, and I walked out convinced I'd played it smart. That feeling didn't last. The trigger was all grit and creep, never crisp. The whole gun felt unfinished, like it wanted to remind you why it was cheap. Shooting it, I realized excitement had been replaced by the sense I had just settled. I started noticing something. Security 9S kept showing up in the shop's used case. Different faces, same story, owners quietly trading up, wishing they'd aimed higher from the start. Best of lists promised I'd feel clever. All I felt was outgrown. And as those guns keep piling up, it hit me. Sometimes the real surprise isn't how fast value disappears, but how a single detail can turn a safe pick into just another step on the way to something better. Turns out, the next lesson came from a gun that everyone claimed was already perfect. When the Sig Sauer P365 first landed back in 2018, it didn't just shake up the market, it rewrote the whole EDC script. Best pistol lists everywhere crowned it the answer. Finally, a micro compact that actually carried enough rounds, didn't jam, and fit inside any waistband. I heard it at every shop, read it in every magazine, and the last carry pistol you'll ever need. That promise was strong enough to make anyone cave. I picked one up thinking I was done searching, done second guessing. And for a while it worked just like the list said. Reliable, small, surprisingly accurate. But months rolled by, and something stayed off. The grip never truly fit my hand. The recoil snapped harder than I wanted. Holsters piled up in the drawer, each one trying to solve a problem the lists never mentioned. At the range, I wasn't alone. Every other shooter I talked to had the same look. Oh, a P365 in the bag, but some new model in the holster. We'd all come looking for closure, and every one of us ended up back in the hunt. Funny thing about those best pistol lists, if the perfect gun's been out since 2018 and buyers still can't settle, maybe the real problem isn't the guns at all. Makes you wonder, are you chasing the end of the search or just getting started on a new one? There's a cop I know out in Nevada, one of those guys who's seen it all and doesn't buy into marketing. When the Glock 43 XMOS started topping every best concealed carry list, he finally gave in. The idea was simple. Slim slide, real capacity, Glock reliability. Lists everywhere promised it was the ultimate plainclothes pistol, made for the guys who needed to disappear in a crowd. For a while it felt true. Standing, walking, the 43X vanished under a shirt. Drawing from concealment was smooth, never snagged, and the gun shot as straight as you'd hope. But then came the curveball, the grip. Sitting in a booth, climbing into the squad car, or even bending to tie his boots. The longer grip started printing, sharp as a signal flare. It didn't matter how slim the slide was. The part nobody warned him about gave him away every time he let his guard down. He started leaving it behind, quietly swapping for something shorter, something the lists called outdated, but never once got him noticed. Best pistol lists always brag about what sells in theory. In real life, it's the details they never mention that cost you. And me? I'm still out here looking for the answer these lists keep promising, but never deliver. Pawn shops always smell like lost bets. Every shelf a lesson in buyer's remorse. One glass case had a Canik TP9 SF Elite, tagged underrated gem staff favorite. The clerk grinned, dropping all the lines from YouTube and those endless best list roundups. Real shooters skip Glock and grab this. Best value for the money, trust me. I wanted to believe it. Owning what the crowd misses feels smart. Maybe even a little smug. The price was right, the lists were glowing, and for a second it felt like I'd found a secret handshake gun. But the honeymoon died quick. Week 1, the finish wore down. Magazines didn't fit right. Always a little stubborn. Needed a side screw? Good luck. Parts in transit? Support? Try back in a few weeks. All that underrated talk? Turns out it's code for a gun with more hassles than answers. Looking back, it's the oldest scam in the book. Call something an underrated gem. And folks trip over themselves, proving they're smarter than the crowd. Next time at the shop, there it was again. Maybe the same pistol, back for another round. The only thing underrated is how fast a best list gem turns back into someone else's problem. And just when you think you've dodged every trap, the next pick finds a new way to let you down. There's a certain pressure that comes with picking up the smart guy's choice. Every range buddy, every forum post, Every top 10 list, somehow they all settled on the CZP-10C. The pitch was always the same. Reliable, crisp trigger, way better than a Glock for less money. I got tired of being the only one without one. Maybe that's all it took. One weekend, I finally bought in. For weeks, I tried to convince myself I felt what they felt. On paper, the gun checked every box. At the range, it ran smooth. In my hand, though, it just never fit. Not bad, never that, but never good enough to make me want to keep shooting after the drills were done. Quiet rides home, gun in the bag, still looking for a reason to love it. One night I said it out loud. I don't actually like this gun. A buddy, same story, admits he never cared for it either. Next thing you know, everyone else is fessing up. All that best of talk? Turns out we were all bluffing, hoping to belong. Makes you wonder, how many top picks are just folks afraid to speak up first? Some gifts come with stories you remember forever. This time, it was my old mentor's birthday. The man who taught me how to shoot, how to pick a gun, how to tell the difference between good and just good enough. We all chipped in, went by the book, and picked out the M&P 9 2.0. Every list called it the best all around. The guy at the shop smiled, said, "Can't go wrong with that." Unboxing was quiet but heavy. There's a kind of reverence when you're handing over a gun to the man who taught you the ropes. First shots, flawless. Triggers clean, recoils mild. Groups land right where you aim. Everything promised, nothing lacking. But after the last mag, he just stood there, gun at his side, and gave a half smile. Shoots like a dream. Don't feel much though. No story, no spark, just a dependable tool. On the drive home, the silence said more than words. Maybe that's what the best lists forget. Sometimes a gun can check every box and still leave you cold. We thought we'd finally nailed it. But with the number one pick still waiting, I started to wonder if the next one would finally break the spell. It was late, the kind of evening when the range is quiet, just brass on concrete and the sun falling out of the sky. I'd come to see if the Beretta APX A1 was really all the experts claimed. Every best pistol list raved, flawless reliability, brutal styling, the new king. The grip felt dialed in, trigger was all business, and the groups piled up tight. I couldn't find a single fault. No reason to complain, nothing to fix, nothing left to wish for. But somewhere in that perfection, something went missing. No spark, no urge to tell a story, just a checklist ticked off. I thought of an old friend who still brings his beat-up 92 FS, gun that's seen better days, but every dent and scratch means something. He'll joke about jams, laugh when a shot goes wide, and somehow those memories stick longer than any trophy target. Walking to the car, the APX A1 boxed up and silent, I felt a weird envy for anyone who actually connects with their pistol, even if it's not a top pick. Years spent chasing specs, chasing lists, and now all I've got are answers that never quite fit. Maybe that's the final lesson the best lists never admit. Sometimes the hardest thing to face isn't a flaw or failure. It's realizing the perfect gun can still leave you looking for something real. And if you're still searching after all this, maybe you already know the feeling too. That's the ugly secret. Every so-called best pistol list will eventually fail you. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but sooner or later you'll get burned chasing someone else's answers. I've seen legends turn to regrets, and guns with perfect reviews jam at the worst moment. What nobody wants to admit is that trust can't be bought or copied. You have to get let down a few times before you really learn what matters. So now it's your turn. Which can't miss pick left you standing there wondering what went wrong? Drop your story below. I want to hear how these lists let you down too. No shame in it. The truth is, the only real answer is the one you find the hard way. I'm Steve, and I'm still looking for mine. Stick around. You might just catch the next lesson before I do.